If Zushi is a 1 in 100,000 nin talent and Gon and Killua are 1 in 10 million, then just what the hell is Prince Tserriednich? Let's talk about it. So I recently put out a video doing a deep dive into Tserriednich's abilities and what he is capable of. And in that video, I mentioned how he is one of the most talented nin users we have ever seen, eclipsing the likes of even Gon and Killua. And I got some pushback in the comments on that statement, so I wanted to make this video and just showcase why this man is in a world all his own. Alright, so first let's set our benchmark with Gon and Killua as 1 in 10 million talents. And just for the record here, this was an anime-only statement. In the manga, there's a few different translations, but in the manga, Wing calls Zushi a 1 in 100,000 talent and then says Gon and Killua like surpass him even. So we don't have a hard number, but let's just go with the 1 in 10 million. Now, this assessment took place during the Heaven's Arena arc when Master Wing taught Gon and Killua Nin for the first time. And obviously there aren't any ways to like hard scale their talent level, so we're just gonna have to kind of extrapolate here. And I think the best 2 points we can do that on are one, the period of time they spent training, and two, their efficiency in the water divination test. So first of all, let's talk about the time period, right? This Heaven's Arena arc took place over several weeks, if not a few months. And in that time, he taught them Nin the fundamentals, and they spent weeks at a time studying specific elements of it, right? And again, this isn't to take anything away from Gon and Killua because like he says, they are incredible. 1 in 10 million. But even still, it took them several weeks to get these things down. And then let's talk about the Nin divination test, in which you imbue aura into a glass of water to determine your Nin classification. And the first day the boys learn how to do this, they do it successfully, but the results are very subtle. Gon only makes a little bit of water pour out, and Killua changes the taste of his water only slightly. And so Wing tells them to practice this for 4 weeks, an entire month, and then they will check back in. And in that 4 weeks, they grow exponentially. The water starts pouring out of the glass for Gon, and Killua changes the taste dramatically. And then as one final benchmark, it wasn't until sometime even after the Heaven's Arena arc that the two of them developed their very own abilities. Gon with Jajanken and Killua with Godspeed. Now let's talk about Tserriednich's talent, which is so overwhelmingly terrifying that Theta realizes she needs to take him out for the good of humanity, and is even willing to sacrifice herself in order to do so. And now let's quickly just go over all of the times that he showcases his talent, starting with this one, when Theta first starts to tutor him in Nin, where she tells him you need to make like a ball of aura in your hand, and in order to do that, you have to feel it. So practice this for 10 minutes, 3 times a day, and then maybe in a week or two, you'll be able to, and he cuts her off and says, done. And not only has he made the ball of aura, but he's seamlessly tossing it back and forth between his hands, and then he concentrates it on his finger. This is very reminiscent of when Jing Freaks was showing Beyond's expedition team how he could make all of the pips in his Nin around his finger. And Theta says immediately that I cannot believe this, that he is a genius. And remember, this is a man who literally just found out about Nin. He doesn't know about Ten or Rin, Zetsu or Hatsu, much less In or Gyo or anything like that. And he's already doing an advanced application of his aura by being able to manifest it immediately and shape it and move it around. And speaking of Gyo, which if you don't recall is an advanced application of Rin, wherein you concentrate your aura in a specific body part in order to enhance it. We often see people do this with their eyes. Well, Tserriednich learns that in half a day. Gon and Killua had their aura nodes opened on March 10th, and they didn't learn Gyo till May 13th. Now, there is some additional context here. It's not as crazy as it seems, because you'll recall that he forbid Gon from training his Nin while he was recovering. So there's about a month where they weren't doing anything, and once they resumed training, they learned Gyo in a couple of days. But still, it had been 2 months since they first had their aura unlocked, and even though he wasn't actively training, they were obviously familiarizing themselves with this entire process. So even if we want to be the most charitable possible, we could say that Gon and Killua learned Gyo in a couple of days. Tserriednich did it in half of 1 day. Next, Tserriednich's water divination test really needs no further explanation, but just look at this thing. This was the first time he attempted it. Gon and Killua spent an entire month, and as Theta says, she has never seen anything like this. And it's not just his physical talent with Nen, if we can call it that, but he's also a Nen genius in terms of his intellect, because he immediately picks up on the fact that there could be a Nen manipulator on board working with Kurapika, because what if the condition for his ability is the fact that he has to teach other people? And Theta is blown away by this, saying that he's already surpassed her in one of the most important skills in Nen combat, the depth and speed of expecting the unexpected. And then in terms of Hatsu, which again took Gon and Killua months to develop, Tserriednich did it in a number of days and created a full-fledged Nen beast with a time travel-esque ability. And oh yeah, he did all of this subconsciously. And let me say that one more time for those of you in the back. He crafted a fully formed Hatsu subconsciously, and one that is insanely impressive. One that normally takes people months, if not years, of thoughtful curation and practice. He did so in a number of days, unintentionally. And Theta's not the only one completely floored by his talent. When Salkov checks in and helps him train, he too is just dumbfounded by this. When Tserriednich gets his Zetsu under 10 seconds, Salkov comments that that's widely known as the second wall in terms of Nen training, that you have to work really hard to ever be able to surpass that. He even goes on to say that he was born with Nen, so he mastered Zetsu since birth, and yet it took him a year of training to get to this point, which again took Tserriednich a couple of days. He goes on to say that half a year for me is like one day for him. What a monster. This growth is unprecedented. And oh yeah, Tserriednich just so happens to be doing this training whilst also running on a treadmill, holding a conversation, and playing video games at the same time. And Tserriednich goes on to cut his Zetsu down to under 4 seconds in the span of 3 days, which he comments is just unheard of. I honestly don't think there's an accurate comparison for his talent. The closest thing would probably be Meruem himself. Even if you take somebody like Isaac Netero, who we know is stronger than 99% of people in this series, we know that he dedicated his entire life to training and reaching that point, right? And that's not to say that Isaac Netero wasn't a greater than 1 in 10 million talent too. He probably was, but it still took all of that time for him to get that strong. And Tserriednich is not on Netero's level, and he's clearly not on Meruem's level. Don't get me wrong. The point is, his exponential growth curve is unlike anything we've seen. And if we give him time, I'm talking a few months, a year, or even like 10 years, or hell, let's give him as long as Isaac Netero had, right? I think he would be a force to be reckoned with and would probably be far stronger than the Isaac Netero we saw and could even surpass Meruem. I even forgot to mention that he's doing all of this while his teachers are intentionally trying to hold him back. Both Theta and Salkov do not want him to progress like this, so they're doing everything they can to kind of hinder him and not give him the most helpful advice, and he is still doing all of this. So to cycle back to this, I think Tserriednich is safely 1 in a billion, if not 1 in 10 billion. I really don't think, in terms of talent, anyone in this series has come close to what he has showcased here. And on that note, I want to bring it all the way back to another comment I got from Bandit Crollo, and y'all can pause to read the whole thing here. But he's just saying he doesn't really see why everyone views him as a threat. And what I'll say is, you're correct. At his current status, he's not the most scary threat in the world, because there are a lot of Nen users even on the Black Whale that, should they just be thrust into a one-on-one, would stomp Tserriednich right now. The threat comes from the idea that he will get more and more time to train and familiarize himself with Nen, and should he get that opportunity, then yeah, it's gonna be lights out for everybody.
Okay, I understand it now. I understand it now. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm not playing with y'all.
Anyways, y'all, that's going to do it for this one. Huge shout out to Bandit Crollo. Thank you so much for the support, man. And as always, please let me know all y'all's thoughts down in the comments, how you would classify Tserriednich, and if you think he is going to be the big bad of this arc, or if we've got some more curveballs coming our way. And finally, y'all, thank you so much for watching.